What's up, guys? It's Nick. Welcome back to Freedom Algo. Today I'm going to show you some of the different trades that you could have taken on the 2000 tick ES chart. And you can see it's October 8th, 2024. And you can see here that we had this big uptrend working. And there's several trades throughout the morning. Then we had a little bit of a lull period and then some more trades that kind of came up later. And there's some trades that are possibly setting up now. So we might even see some things in real time. But what you can see is if I zoom out, you can see that the market closed over here and then yesterday, and then it opened, shot down, and then came up, and we had this up channel working. So if you look at today's market, we had this up channel working, big two-tiered channel, and it was a little rangy here, but I drew this off the low, and eventually we got a break over here, and after the break we got a new high. We ended up pulling back and getting another new high here, and we haven't been able to make a new high since then. So I think this was valid. Originally, I was thinking maybe there was a wider channel in play because this looked like part of an up channel here. It wasn't really breaking down, but I think this is the valid setup because if you try to draw it with this being inside the channel, it just doesn't fit exactly right. And then when you get your break, you don't get the new high. So I think this is valid. And you can see here that inside this, we had several other channels. So when you came in for the day, let's zoom back a little bit here and we'll talk about some of these. You can see that we had this up channel working, kind of like a spike and then an up channel. And if you look at the time here, this would have been the first possible trade. That would have been around 5:05 a.m. my time. So what you see here is that you come up, and that's Pacific time. So you get a break and then the new high off of this channel here. And then right after you get the new high, you get a nice lower high right here. So that would be a nice trade that you just kind of expect to take it back to the 21 EMA, which actually works out pretty well. You wouldn't have had this channel drawn yet, this range drawn yet, but you would have made it right back to the 21 EMA, and then it kind of got stuck there for a while. Then the market was just pretty sideways. So I did draw this up channel that was working, and it did play out. You can see this kind of spike and channel pattern did play out within the bigger pattern, where after it broke here, you eventually did make a new high over there. But what you would have actually had in real time, zoom in here, is something more like this. Once you made this high after the open, you would have seen that you made this other kind of lower high here, which some people might argue that you could have taken a short there. But for me, we didn't have a break of the channel, so I wouldn't have taken that. We had just opened. So what I saw this as is no real trades down here in this congestion, but we came up, made the new high, came down. Now there is a trade here, which this is marked green because it's a little bit riskier, but this is a hidden second entry long. You had a new high, pull back, first entry. It doesn't break higher here technically, but on a smaller time frame it would have. That's why it's a hidden second entry, and then it pulls back, gives you this nice bullish bar right above the EMA, right off the bottom of the channel. At this point, the channel wasn't broken yet, so that would have been pretty much a perfect trade. Would have rode you all the way up to here, and then you would have finally got your break. Now, when you finally get your break here, you get this move down, and then this down channel breaks. Now you're expecting a new high. So after the down channel breaks, right afterwards, you get a close outside and a new high, all in one right here. So you could maybe say this is the close outside, but really this is the close outside new low. Sorry, not new high. You get the new low here, and that would be a long. So you could ride that all the way back up. At this point, you might have started to draw your range off of these areas over here. You probably had this kind of range up here. So this was kind of off the range lows of the time too. So that would be a nice long, and then here you end up coming up, you get this sort of double top, and then you pull back, and I marked this one green because it's not really, it's basically just the new low and then another leg to a new low, which can happen sometimes. Sometimes you get those two legs where break, new low, second leg to a new low, something like that. But really this is just a play off of the bottom. You can kind of call this a triple test as well, off of the bottom of the range. Then it comes up and you get another one here where you actually get a first entry, second entry long off the bottom of the range again. It gives you even more. You could say this is even more than a triple test now. But if you look at this low over here, and then this one, and then this one, they're all the same amount. So those are all nice triple tests. Then you get a higher low here. The reason I only marked this one green is that it's starting to look pretty congested there. So I marked it green. It closed right at the EMA. So it's a possibility. You're expecting it to go to the back towards the top of the range because it hasn't done so yet, and you get the higher low. So that one's pretty decent. It ends up just giving you a scalp, and then you would have got your runner probably stopped there. But anyway, channel moves up. Some of these channels moved on me during the market. I don't know what happened there. So this one's actually just a tad. It's a little bit more like that or so. Anyway, so you got this channel that goes up. At this point, you came really close to the lower part of that trend line. So that's another reason that this was a nice area, the bigger trend line. So then this breaks and you get your new high right here. And now you have this down channel working. Now you get this trade here. So you got your break and your new high. And the reason I marked this one green is that I'm seeing this as a possible failed breakout lower high. So you get this new high, pulls back, comes up, gives you a lower high, and so you could enter right at the right after the bar closes, one tick below, and then you're kind of getting in right below that EMA, and it would have been a nice little quick scalp. Just trying to ride back towards the range to see if we test it, because usually most breakouts fail. So you're thinking that that's going to be a failed breakout. So decent setup there. Then you come down here. It would have been nice to take the breakout pullback here, because you if this was a nice bullish bar, but you don't really get a good setup there. So then you kind of just have to wait. Now at this point, this bigger channel that we were talking about right here is where it broke. So the channel's broken. So you want to be careful trying to long that right away. And you want to wait and see kind of if it goes a little further, if it comes back into the range. At the time, the range was down here. What ends up happening is eventually it starts to kind of chop its way up, and then it shoots up and makes the new high right here. Now this one I marked green, but this was a nice bearish bar, and you're so far away from the EMA after that impulsive move. It's a new high, so you're always better off to wait for a lower high, but you don't actually get one. So this would have been a nice little trade to take down. Risky, but it would have been a good trade. And then you get a new high here. I don't think that you can really enter that, because at this point you weren't expecting a new high after getting the new high. Now sometimes you do get the break and then you get a couple legs. So some people might argue that this red candle would have been a decent one to go short. But at this point you were only a couple ticks away from yesterday's gap. So I thought we were going to fill the gap. So I wouldn't have shorted that, because we were so close to it that it was highly likely that it could come back, go up, hit the 2 ticks, and then reverse. So I didn't like that one. And then you had this range here. So you had this range working. Now, on this range, originally I had it drawn a little lower on these highs here, because we were kind of bouncing off these highs, and then I had these lows. Eventually I moved it based on what was happening. And so in this range, you get some pretty decent trades. So let's zoom in a little bit there. So you come down here and you actually get this trade here where you could consider this a new high, and then you got a first entry pullback, second entry long that fails and closes outside of the range and gives you a possible short. It would have just been a scalp. And what I was thinking there was that we made the new high already in the uptrend. It's possible that we're going to go down and fill the gap below. And the range was failing there. So you were thinking, all right, maybe it's going to actually come down and fill that. It ends up not doing so, and the breakout fails. So it would have been a nice little scalp. It's risky, but it would have been a nice little scalp on a failed second entry. And then here you get a nice bullish bar. The reason I marked this one green at the time is because at the time I had the range at these lows, and you were actually about like 1 or 2 ticks away from the low of the range. So it could have hit the range and then completely reversed and actually went down. So that's why I marked that one green. You're better off to wait on the higher low there, just because we didn't know that the range was a little lower yet. And then here you get this move where you do get the higher low, and that's a good trade setup right there. Next, you come here and you get this at the time. The reason that this one's marked red and where it is, at the time, this was the top of my range. So at the time, I had the range high exactly right there at all these tops of these right here, and those closes. And so for me, this was a perfect, really low risk 6 tick bar just to take a short. So that was actually a really nice one. I took that one in real time as well. Then you come up, you have this up channel working. you get a break and close out, or you get a close outside right here, and then it moves up to a new high, and so that, and then it closes bearish back within the range. So that one was a good one. I actually did take this one in real time as well, and it was a nice trade. The challenge with this one was that you're always better off to wait on the lower high, which is why it's marked green. And it almost stopped me out. It came all the way back up, got within one tick of my stop loss because my stop loss was one tick above the bar, and then it immediately went down and was basically this one here with the red. It's kind of, you could treat it almost like a lower high. It's a double top, but kind of treat it like a lower high. It acted the same way. Closed back in the range, shot down. Then it filled my orders and stuff on this move down into this big, pin bar here. Then you can see this as a new high. You come down, you get a first entry, second entry long, closing back inside bullish bar, right inside the range. That's kind of a perfect setup right there off the range low. So you get a nice long there. And then you even get a higher low here. The higher low takes a little while to work out, kind of goes sideways for a second, but you get a nice higher low after the second entry long, and it's coming right off the range lows. You've been bouncing there. You kind of see that maybe triple, quadruple test. And then you come up. Now, this is a questionable one, whether or not we did get a close outside and a new high of this channel, because you could argue that this channel was more like this and that this is the close outside a new high. So that one's questionable, possibly. I'm just going to leave it like that. All right, and now we have this channel working down, close outside. All right, and then it looks like we're trying to break out here. Let's see, actually. This is a possible setup here. So let's just see. If it closes inside, we might enter one tick above. Take like a, let's see if it does. It doesn't look like it's going to, so I'm not going to take that. If that was a bullish bar that closed back inside, then that might have been a nice little failed breakout, but I'm going to cancel that order. I was just going to try to take a little one just to show it on the video, but it's not going to work because even though that's a perfect double bottom right there, it's not really a triple test because this bar is all, there's just there's not really a test there. What it's probably going to do is come down. Yeah, there it goes. So it ends up not doing that. If that was what I was thinking, was if that turned into a big bullish bar right here, I would have taken a scalp and just tried to ride it back up to the EMA. And you might still get a failed breakout here, but in reality, this could end up being a steeper channel. So I don't really see exactly a trade setup here. I'll watch it for a minute or two here, just on the video, just to see if we can get anything out of this. But from what I can tell, I'm just trying to draw another, if there's a possible bigger channel here. It really, to me, looks like one leg down, break, new low. So this channel is kind of questionable. I'm going to draw it there just in case it really does come into play. But I'm still expecting a failed breakout here. However, we do have a huge gap on this chart. So if you zoom out and you look down, we actually closed yesterday all the way down here. What's the actual? Let me see what the actual close level is there. Looks like 5750.25, 5750.25. So call it 5750 roughly. And you would expect that we're probably going to try to fill that gap at some point. Still didn't fill the gap to the upside, which is crazy. We got within like 2 ticks of it. So hard to say. But this one here looks like it's not going to. Yeah, this doesn't look like it's going to fail here, but it's hard to know for sure. It did come down and kind of tap some of this zone right here where you had some of that congestion before this big push up earlier. Also, these kind of highs, we kind of came back and we're testing that area. So let's see here. You can't really, there's no trade setup here. You can't take a long above this or anything. You're outside of the channel at this point. It's too risky to just take one here. So what we're going to look for is see if we close back inside. There could be a higher low setup, but it doesn't look like it's going to pan out that way. And you can see here, you can look back, pull back first entry, pull back second entry long. That actually looks like it's going to fail here. So let's see. Yeah, this looks like it is going to give possible failed second entry long, but you don't want to go short right into the low like that, especially because most breakouts fail. So there goes that failed second entry long did just play out. It did make a new low, so this could be an actual downtrend that starts here. Let's see. This channel could be valid. We'll stretch it a little bit and we'll see, but this could also give us a really bullish bar and just come straight back up to the range. Hard to say for sure at this point, but that first entry, second entry did fail, so that's interesting. And then it looks like, yeah, it looks like it's going to break down here and come down. Maybe it's going to come back and test those previous range area. Maybe it's going to come back and test the open. We'll see. We will see. Let's see. I don't see anything here. This channel also, wow, that was aggressive. That was an aggressive move right there. So we'll see if we get at this point, this you've already made more than a measured move of this actual channel. So at this point, you're thinking that we're going to break down probably from here. Let's see. It didn't come down to test those lows and that range high, so that's interesting too. But you can see break, second leg down. Now this is now 2 legs down to the new low in this, if that is the break of this here. But if you do, this could be a bigger down channel that's working. It's hard to know for sure. It's not confirmed yet because you only have the highs here and then the touch there. You don't have another touch over here. So sometimes it's, the wider channel doesn't always fit. So we don't know for sure. It's not confirmed and you wouldn't take that yet. So now we're going to see, we got a first entry short here. Let's see what it does here. Possible. So we got a new low, pull back, first entry short. It's only 1 tick. I mean, it's kind of sideways. It's not a super convincing leg yet, but we'll see if we can get possibly a tap of maybe this trend line and the EMA. There could be a possible short there because sometimes when it goes like this, you're kind of thinking that it's probably, failed breakouts typically happen a lot closer than this. Like it's, unlikely that it's just going to shoot all the way back up into the range. Now it could, but we'll see. I'm just going to try to stay on for a couple extra minutes longer just to see what we get. So technically here, pullback, first entry, pullback. It's kind of a second entry short all at the same time there. But I'm going to look at this almost like just one leg of correction. So the low, pullback, one leg of correction. I'm going to kind of see that as, you could argue second entry, but it's really like by the count, that would be a second entry because you had your low, you came up and then you came down. So that's your first entry. And then you came up and then you came down. That's your second entry. But that doesn't look like 2 legs of correction to me, really. So I'm going to wait and see. I'm not going to take a trade there because there's just that's not a setup for me. You're far away. You're not coming off of anything specifically here, and you're just kind of too close to the bottom. So we'll see if we can possibly get a trade here. I'm not seeing anything that's going to set up here right now. I'm probably just going to have to end the video because it's taking too long to set up. I'm just not really seeing it. It's possible that we come back to the EMA and we get something, but I don't want to sit here for another 10 minutes if it doesn't really play out into anything. But just keep an eye on it because there could end up being a setup that comes up here. Now, I'm not trying to cover the entire session of every day. I'm just trying to cover some of the action for when I'm actually trading it and whatnot. So I'm going to give this like another maybe 1 minute, and then if it doesn't, all right. So let's see. So there you go. First entry, second entry that failed. So that's actually a failed second entry short by the counts. But again, that's pretty sideways. Kind of almost look at this as like one leg. Now let's see what we get here. So now we're seeing if there is an actual down channel here. Is it a down channel? And I'm not going to say it is and then this is a break. If this doesn't, you need at least like 3 touches or so for me to really consider this a proper trend channel. Because it could just as easily have been that this was a different channel that was something like this with another close outside and it's basically 2 legs down. So Let's see. Yeah, so I don't think that there's a channel here. You can't really fit that. I mean, I guess you could argue if it goes like this. It's a possibility. It's a possibility. We'll let it play for a second, but nothing convincing for me there. It's not obvious. To me, at this point, you're starting to consider that you've already got this pretty steep move coming up. You don't really have anything convincing there. Okay, well there you go. So now you're making an attempt to lower here, but no signal bar or anything. But let's just see. You got this channel, small channel working up that could just be a little correction channel, but you did make a new low already from some of these breaks, so you probably aren't going to be looking for that. Now, hey, maybe this ends up being a failure. This comes up and it actually does break back up into the into here, which would end up giving you a failed breakout. On the measured move, you did make your measured move on the channel and reverse above it, and now you're kind of bouncing off that measured move. So that's interesting to see. So let's see here. Yeah, I don't think that this channel is very valid, but it's possible. So I'm just going to leave it there just in case. You could kind of draw it off this close here. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, there's no real way this is going to fit. It's going to end up closing outside of this probably right now. And then give this almost a failure. This is almost like a failed second entry short right here. Yeah, right there. That you're expecting to come back and probably test the range. But that's closing below. It's kind of now it's going to start looking sideways. So I'm going to stay out of it. But anyway, I just want to kind of show you how I saw the day. And hopefully you have a good rest of the day.